I used to think I had the perfect wife. People said we looked like a magazine couple, always smiling in photos. She had this energy, ambitious, sharp, magnetic. She made people feel special. And me? I was just happy to be the man by her side. We met when we were young, broke, dreaming big. Built a life slowly. Moved into a modest place, shared takeout nights and late-night conversations that made time disappear. We were real. At least, that's what I believed. Things changed gradually. Not overnight. That's the part no one warns you about. The way betrayal slides in silently, dressed like normalcy. At first, it was small things. She'd stay late at work more often. I didn't question it. Her job demanded a lot. She'd say she was part of a new project, some big campaign that needed after-hours attention. I was proud of her hustle. Then she started bringing her phone everywhere. Bathroom. Bedroom. Always face down. It buzzed constantly, and she'd smile at the screen, barely noticing me anymore. I chalked it up to stress, maybe burnout. I even suggested a weekend away. She said she couldn't. Too much going on at work. Still, I believed her. That's the thing about trust, it blinds you until it breaks. There were other red flags. She started dressing differently for work, bolder, tighter outfits. She claimed it was for confidence. "This industry's competitive," she said. "I've got to look the part." I nodded. Supported her. I even complimented her, not realizing she wasn't dressing for me anymore. We'd have dinner, and she'd barely touch her food, eyes flicking to her phone every few minutes. Conversations got shorter. Kisses turned mechanical. Her laugh stopped sounding like music and started feeling like a habit. One night, I came home early, hoping to surprise her with flowers and wine. I'd been feeling this ache in my chest, like I was slipping away from someone still in the same room. She wasn't there. I waited. Texted her. No reply. 2 hours later, she walked in, startled to see me. Claimed she lost track of time at work. She smelled different. Like cologne that wasn't mine. I didn't say anything. Just nodded, smiled, and pretended to believe her. I didn't want to be the jealous husband. I didn't want to accuse her without proof. And deep down, I still hoped I was wrong. That maybe I was paranoid. Maybe this was a rough patch and nothing more. Relationships hit those. Right. She became more careful after that. Kept her phone locked. Started showering as soon as she got home. Her excuses tightened. Girls' night, team dinner, late presentation prep. And I stayed quiet, swallowing every doubt with the kind of numbness that feels like drowning while smiling. I remember one night vividly. We were lying in bed. She was scrolling her phone, giggling softly, completely disconnected from me. I turned over, stared at the ceiling, and wondered when exactly my wife stopped being mine. The next morning, she left early. I picked up her charger that she'd left on the nightstand. Her phone buzzed as I touched it. A notification popped up, just a preview. It was from a guy named T. The message read, "Last night was insane. Can't stop thinking about you. Still taste you." I froze. Everything in me shattered quietly. I didn't touch the phone again. I didn't confront her. I just stood there, looking at the words like they were written in blood. For a moment, I hoped it was a mistake. A wrong number. A prank. But in my gut I knew. The kind of knowing that hurts in your bones. That wasn't the first message. It was just the one I finally saw. She came home that evening with a smile, kissed me on the cheek, asked about my day like nothing had happened. I looked at her and realized I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. Not anymore. She made small talk. Told me about an upcoming work party. "You should come," she said. "It'll be good for us. People haven't seen us together in a while." I nodded, still silent. She mistook my silence for forgiveness. That night I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and asked myself the question no one wants to ask. What do you do when the person you love is the one who betrayed you? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But I knew one thing: this story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And neither was I. The moment I saw that message, everything changed. The illusion was gone. I couldn't unsee it, couldn't pretend I was imagining things. The silence between us after that wasn't peaceful, it was loaded. I watched her more closely. Every time her phone lit up, I memorized the look in her eyes. She tried to play the role, cooking, small talk, even intimacy, but it all felt mechanical, like she was performing. I didn't confront her right away. I needed more than a text preview. I needed clarity, not to trap her, but to free myself from the what-ifs. So I waited. Observed. Listened. I became quiet in a way she wasn't used to. She mistook it for distance. I let her think that. Silence is a language people underestimate. She slipped up again 2 nights later. Said she was staying late for a client pitch. I offered to bring her dinner. She panicked for a split second, just long enough to confirm what I already knew. Said no, claimed they were ordering in. I didn't argue. I waited until she left, then drove to her office. The lights were on. Her car was there. So was his. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. I just sat in my car, hands clenched, chest hollow, and let the truth wrap itself around me. She wasn't working late. She wasn't sorry. She thought she could lie to my face and I'd be too passive to act. I went home that night and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked tired. Smaller. Like a man shrinking inside his own skin. That's what betrayal does, it erodes you silently. The next morning, she was cheerful. Kissed my cheek, complimented my shirt. Told me again about the work party coming up. Said her team wanted to see me. You haven't been around much, she said. They miss you. That was rich. Her coworkers probably knew everything. I wondered if they laughed about it behind my back. I asked who'd be there. She listed names casually, included him without blinking. T's coming too. You've met him, right? I nodded. I had. Polite handshake. Fake smile. Meanwhile, he was sleeping with my wife behind my back. I wondered what kind of man does that and looks you in the eye like nothing's wrong. She noticed my coldness but didn't press. Maybe she thought time would heal the silence. Maybe she thought I'd break first. That I'd confront her and cry and beg to fix it. That wasn't going to happen. A few days before the party, she brought home a new dress. Asked how she looked. I said she looked nice. I meant it. She was beautiful. She just wasn't mine anymore. I didn't eat much that week. Couldn't focus at work. I replayed every moment of our marriage, wondering when the shift happened. When the vows we exchanged became optional. She used to laugh in her sleep. I hadn't heard that laugh in months. I missed her. Not the woman she became, but the one I married. The one who said forever and meant it. The one who used to hold my hand like it grounded her. The night of the party arrived. She seemed nervous, tried to cover it with extra makeup and perfume. She kept asking if I was okay. I nodded. She mistook my calm for acceptance. She wore the new dress. Red. Fitted. Confident. She looked radiant. I almost forgot for a second, forgot the messages, the lies, the betrayal. Almost. The venue was upscale. Expensive wine, loud music, everyone pretending to be more important than they were. I shook hands, smiled politely, let her introduce me like I was still hers. People talked about promotions, numbers, team wins. All while 2 of them were cheating behind the scenes. Hypocrisy in designer suits. I saw him across the room. T. He spotted us and waved, too friendly, too smug. My wife tensed subtly but kept smiling. He walked over and shook my hand like nothing had ever happened. I looked him dead in the eyes and returned the handshake. I wondered if he felt any guilt. Probably not. The room buzzed with fake laughter and flattery. I kept my eyes on her. She kept looking over her shoulder. Something was off. She was waiting for someone. But it wasn't me. That's when I noticed the woman near the entrance. Composed. Elegant. Different from the rest. She walked with quiet confidence, scanning the room like she already knew everything. I didn't know her, but my wife did. Her expression changed the moment she saw her. It wasn't recognition. It was fear. I watched the woman approach, step by step, unbothered by the noise or stares. She didn't smile. Didn't flinch. She stopped just a foot away from my wife and leaned in. Whispered something. Just a few words. Whatever she said, it drained the color from my wife's face instantly. Her posture collapsed, her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Her confidence evaporated. I didn't need to hear it. I already knew. That was his wife. He cheated on her too. And now the truth was walking through the door behind her like a wrecking ball. Everything was about to change. And I didn't have to lift a finger. The silence after that moment was louder than the music. My wife stood frozen, her face pale, her lips parted like she was about to speak but couldn't find the words. The woman, his wife, didn't linger. She turned, walked toward the center of the room, and clinked her glass against a nearby bottle. Just loud enough to draw attention. People quieted. Conversations faded. All eyes shifted toward her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her words sliced clean. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said calmly, "but since we're all celebrating transparency and teamwork tonight, I thought I'd add something to the conversation." You could hear the breath leave the room. She held up her phone. Clicked a few buttons. A voice recording began to play. Moaning. Whispers. A man's voice. My wife's voice. Undeniable. The shock hit like a thunderclap. Gasps, stares, awkward shifting. I didn't move. I didn't need to. I'd already lived that betrayal in private. Now it was being replayed in surround sound. My wife dropped her wine glass. Shards scattered. Her eyes darted toward me, pleading, hollow, panicked. I didn't flinch. The man she cheated with, the one who had smiled at me hours earlier, stood there as if the ground had cracked beneath him. He reached out to his wife, but she stepped back. She turned to the crowd and said, "Just thought the team should know what kind of leaders you're promoting. Enjoy the rest of your evening." Then she walked out, heels clicking with precision, head high, not looking back once. The room erupted in whispers. Some tried pretending they didn't hear. Others stared openly. Her coworkers, the ones who knew but never said a word, avoided eye contact. HR reps standing near the back suddenly looked like they'd aged 10 years. My wife stood there, trembling, mouth opening and closing like she was searching for a script that didn't exist. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Not in anger. Not to punish her. I just didn't want to be touched by her anymore. She whispered, "Please, can we talk?" I looked at her, not with rage, but with finality. "Now you want to talk?" Tears welled up. She shook her head like she was waking up from a nightmare she created. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear it wasn't serious. It was a mistake. A mistake that lasted months. A mistake that had a voice. A pattern. A plan. A mistake you didn't stop even after you saw it was destroying me." I didn't say any of that. I just looked at her and said, "You thought I'd forgive you." That hit harder than yelling ever could. The crowd started to disperse. No one wanted to be part of what came next. Her boss walked over, face tight. "We'll be in touch Monday," he muttered, then vanished. The fallout had begun. She followed me outside, frantic, heels wobbling on the pavement. "Please, just listen. It didn't mean anything. You and I, we still have something. I was stupid. I don't want to lose you." I turned to her. For the first time, I wasn't sad. I wasn't confused. I was clear. "You already lost me." She cried harder. Said she'd do therapy. Said she'd quit her job. Said we could start over. She begged me not to throw everything away. I almost laughed. She threw it away. I just finally picked up the pieces and realized they didn't fit anymore. The ride home was silent. She tried to talk, tried to explain, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't even angry. I was empty. Peacefully empty. That's how you know it's over. Not when you scream, not when you cry, but when the person who used to break your heart can't touch it anymore. We got home. She followed me inside like a shadow. I went straight to the bedroom, pulled out a small bag I'd packed days ago. Clothes. Essentials. Freedom. She stood in the doorway, sobbing. So that's it? You're just leaving? I looked at her and said, You didn't think this through. You thought I'd stay because I always have. But not this time. She dropped to her knees, repeating my name like that would change something. It didn't. I walked past her. Out the door. Down the stairs. Into my car. And for the first time in months, I could breathe. The first night away from her was silent, but not the kind that aches. It was a clean kind of silence. I booked a room at a modest hotel, nothing special, just quiet. I sat on the bed with the bag at my feet and no one asking where I'd been. No one lying to my face. Just stillness. For the first time in a long time, I could hear my own thoughts again. She called. I didn't answer. She texted. Long paragraphs filled with apologies, confessions, justifications. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because there was nothing left to say. Words mean nothing when someone's already proven what they value. And it wasn't you. The next morning, I got coffee alone. No distraction. No fake smiles. Just a bitter drink and the clarity that comes after a storm. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't thinking about her pain. I was thinking about what I'd been tolerating, excusing, surviving. When you love someone, you bend. You compromise. You sacrifice. But there's a line. And she crossed it, again and again, while looking me in the eye. That's what stuck with me, not just the affair, but the fact that she could lie so smoothly, sleep beside me with someone else on her mind. That takes practice. That takes choice. I went to work. Focused on tasks. Avoided personal conversations. My coworkers had probably heard some version of the story by now. I didn't care. I wasn't going to defend myself for walking away from betrayal. She kept texting. She tried guilt. Then nostalgia. Then anger. So you're just going to throw away everything we had? She wrote. I read it, then deleted it. What we had was already gone. She just didn't realize it until her mask slipped in public. That week, I met with a divorce attorney. Calm, direct, efficient. There was no drama. I didn't want the house. I didn't want a drawn-out war. I wanted peace. The lawyer asked if I was sure. I nodded. He'd seen the look in my eyes before, men who stayed too long, got burned too deep, and finally decided to choose themselves. I'd always thought divorce meant failure. Now I saw it differently. Staying in a lie is failure. Pretending something still works when it's hollow inside, that's failure. Walking away when you've had enough? That's survival. That's growth. The hardest part wasn't leaving her. It was unlearning the habit of thinking about her first. I'd spent years checking in, adjusting, prioritizing. Now I had to teach myself how to exist without filtering everything through her moods and needs. It was weird at first. Eating alone. Sleeping alone. Making decisions without a second opinion. But day by day, it started feeling less like loneliness and more like freedom. Friends reached out. Some were supportive. Some were shocked. A few said they'd suspected something was off with her but didn't want to interfere. I didn't blame them. People rarely get involved when someone's smiling in public. One night, a friend I hadn't seen in months invited me out for dinner. Just two guys catching up. He listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he just said, "You look lighter." That meant more than he realized. She emailed me a week later. Said she was resigning from her job. Too much fallout. Too many whispers. Her affair partner had been transferred. HR was involved. It was messy. She asked if we could talk, not about us, just closure. I didn't respond. I didn't need closure from her. I already had it the moment she begged me to stay, and I didn't feel anything. That was my closure. That was the end. She was learning, slowly, that actions have consequences. That trust, once shattered, doesn't rebuild just because you regret breaking it. That people don't come back just because you're sorry. I started journaling. Nothing deep, just thoughts, moments, reminders of who I was becoming. I didn't write about her. I wrote about me. What I wanted. What I ignored. What I refused to tolerate moving forward. I realized how much of myself I'd sacrificed to keep things peaceful. How often I kept quiet just to avoid arguments. How much I dismissed my own gut because I didn't want to seem insecure. That wasn't love. That was survival. And I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. I didn't hate her. I wasn't bitter. I just saw her clearly now. And once you do, you can't go back to pretending. She thought I'd forgive her. She thought a few tears would erase months of betrayal. She thought I'd choose history over healing. But I chose myself. And I wasn't going back. A month passed. The world didn't end. The grief didn't consume me. The mornings got easier. The air felt lighter. There were still moments where memories crept in, uninvited, her laugh, the way she used to hold my hand in crowds. But those memories stopped hurting. They just existed, like old photos you don't hang up anymore. I had moved into a small apartment. Nothing fancy, just mine. Every item in that space had a purpose. No shared closet, no ghost of a presence I was trying to forget. I didn't keep anything from the old house. I didn't want reminders. I wanted space to become someone new. There's a strange peace that comes when you stop lying to yourself. I used to convince myself that things would get better, that she'd change, that what we had was worth saving. But now I didn't need to pretend. I could face my life exactly as it was. Flawed, raw mine. The divorce papers came through without resistance. She signed them quickly. No counterarguments. Maybe she realized there was no salvaging the mess. Or maybe she was just tired of pretending too. Her final message was short. I'm sorry. I'll regret it forever. I read it once, then deleted it. Regret wasn't my responsibility anymore. She could carry that weight on her own. I had carried enough already. Therapy helped. Not the kind where someone nods and says, "That must have been hard." I found someone who challenged me. Who didn't let me hide behind anger or blame. Who made me ask the uncomfortable questions. Why did I ignore the signs? Why did I let my boundaries fade? Why did I hold on longer than I should have? It wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. That's what people miss about betrayal. It doesn't just break your trust in them. It breaks your trust in yourself. You doubt your judgment, your worth, your instincts. But over time, piece by piece, you start rebuilding. Not the old version of yourself, but a better one. One who knows what red flags mean. One who doesn't explain away disrespect. One who listens when their gut whispers, "This isn't right." I reconnected with old friends. Ones I drifted from during the marriage. Funny how relationships can isolate you even when you think you're in love. We laughed about things that had nothing to do with her. That was healing too, remembering I existed outside of what she left behind. One of them asked if I was ready to date again. I wasn't. Not because I was bitter. Because I wanted to be whole before I let someone new into my life. I didn't want to bleed on someone who didn't cut me. I didn't want to look for validation where I should bring confidence. Self-respect isn't loud. It doesn't scream or post quotes online. It's quiet. It's walking away when you're not treated right. It's choosing peace over chaos. It's knowing that your worth isn't negotiable. I started working out again. Not to impress anyone, just to feel strong. I read books. Picked up hobbies I used to say I didn't have time for. I made plans without checking in. I made decisions without second-guessing. I became someone I liked being alone with. Sometimes people mess up and want another chance. Sometimes they don't want to fix what they broke, they just don't want to face the consequences of breaking it. She didn't want me back. She wanted to undo the damage. But life doesn't work like that. You can't unburn bridges. You can only walk away from the ashes. There were no dramatic confrontations. No begging. No reunion. Just silence and growth. I didn't think about what she was doing. If she was dating. If she missed me. That wasn't my business anymore. My business was healing. My business was building something she couldn't destroy, my own peace. Looking back, I didn't lose a partner. I lost a lie. I lost someone who didn't choose me. And in return, I found someone who finally did, me. Pain has a way of clarifying things. You learn what you need. What you deserve. What you'll never settle for again. The heartbreak becomes the blueprint. Not for revenge, but for resurrection. And I was no longer broken. I was rebuilding. 6 months later, the scars had faded, but the lessons hadn't. I no longer flinched when I heard her name. It came up once in conversation. Someone mentioned she'd moved to another city, trying to start over. I nodded and moved on. There was nothing left to feel. Closure wasn't something she gave me. It was something I gave myself the moment I stopped needing her apology to heal. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is heavy. It keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. I let it go. Not for her, for me. Because peace isn't something you get by holding on. It's something you earn by letting go. People kept asking how I got through it. The answer wasn't simple. There was no one-day fix, no secret mantra. It was just consistent truth. Accepting what happened. Taking responsibility for staying too long. Making new choices every day that aligned with self-respect. I stopped trying to make sense of her betrayal. There's no logic to it. People cheat for reasons that usually have nothing to do with the one they hurt. Insecurity. Ego. Addiction to attention. But understanding her motives wouldn't undo what she did. So I stopped asking why. I stopped trying to make it make sense. I accepted that some questions never get answered. And that's okay. I ran into her one afternoon in a grocery store. She looked older, not in age, but in weight, emotional weight. The kind you can't hide behind makeup or clothes. She saw me, froze, then walked over. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I could tell she wanted to say something. I didn't stop her. She asked how I'd been. I told her the truth, peaceful. That one word said everything. She said she was in therapy, trying to understand herself better. Said she regretted what happened every day. I believed her. Regret is real. But it doesn't rebuild what you shattered. It doesn't resurrect trust. It just confirms what's lost. She asked if I was seeing anyone. I said no. She nodded, quietly hopeful. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Do you ever think about us? I looked her in the eye and said, no. I think about who I was before US. And I like that man more. She didn't cry. She just stood there, processing the finality. And I could see it, she understood. There would be no second chance. No friendship. No slow rebuild. Just an ending she never expected to be permanent. She left without another word. That night, I sat alone at home and realized something powerful. Forgiveness isn't about restoring the relationship. It's about removing its power to hurt you. And I had done that. I forgave her, not for her sake, but so I could walk away clean. There were moments when I looked back, not with longing, but with clarity. I saw how many signs I had ignored. How many excuses I accepted. How low I set the bar just to feel loved. And I made a promise to myself, never again. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted a life where I didn't have to beg someone to treat me right. And now, I had that. Healing isn't loud. It's not fireworks or applause. It's waking up one day and realizing you didn't think about them. It's laughing without guilt. It's standing in your own skin and not wishing you were somewhere else. It's knowing that you survived something meant to break you, and came out better. The people who loved me through it, friends, mentors, even strangers online, were part of that journey. But the most important part? I showed up for myself. I didn't run. I didn't numb it. I felt every part of it, and I grew through it. Divorce didn't ruin me. Her betrayal didn't define me. If anything, they revealed me. Showed me who I was when everything fell apart, and who I could become when I chose to rebuild. So if you're standing in the middle of heartbreak, wondering if it gets better, know this: it does. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But it does. When you stop chasing closure from someone who broke you, when you stop shrinking to fit a version of love that hurts, you get free. And freedom feels a lot like peace.